What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Thanks for tuning in. This is another episode of Heydorn Watches Wrestling right here on PWTorch YouTube. What's going on? I'm Zach Heydorn, PWTorch Assistant Editor. Thanks for joining me. There's never a shortage of wrestling to watch. Am I right? One or two shows per week. But hey, you know what? Sometimes it's fun to find little nuggets, little cool nuanced matches or shows. And whether it's an indie show or like an old school wrestling show or something from like the 30s, 40s, we try to cover it all here. And it's relatively a new show here on the PWTorch YouTube channel. But we're back here with another edition, Heydorn Watches Wrestling. Thanks for being here again. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking the videos. If for some reason you haven't done those things, shame. Go ahead and click subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. And it's a big help. It's a big help for us and a way for you to support the channel, support the torch, and the type of coverage that we provide for professional wrestling. So thank you in advance. But as I had mentioned, today I want to talk about a match that I had never even heard of prior to watching it this past week. And it's such a cool match. It's such an interesting match. It's a really different kind of match. Like watching Young Bucks and Kenny Omega against Death Triangle at Full Gear. From that to what we're going to talk about for a few minutes here today is just a wide range, and really, I think, kind of cool to think about when you think about professional wrestling as an art form throughout the years, and even just today with different styles clashing. You know, you can have two completely different pieces of work, trios tag at Full Gear, and the match we're going to talk about today, opposite ends of the spectrum. But it just shows how big the spectrum is for creativity and for meaning and impact in pro wrestling. So the match we're talking about is from 1978. Marty Jones against Mark Rocco. 2 championships on the line. September 23rd, 1978 is the date. This match is on YouTube. Just YouTube Mark Rocco versus Marty Jones, and you will find this match. It's a 30-minute video. The match is maybe 30 minutes, maybe it's not. I won't give away too much here as far as how the finish goes, but it is on YouTube, and you can go and watch it right now. This is exactly what I did. And you're thinking probably to yourself what I was thinking when I heard about the match, which is Marty Jones against Mark Rocco. Okay, I've kind of heard about those two. They're British pro wrestlers, but you know, I haven't seen much of them at all. And same thing here. You know, I had heard of both men, but I'm not like familiar with their work. Though I will be going down the rabbit hole now as far as how their work goes. But I was raking the yard. Okay, this is how me watching this match came about. I was raking the yard. I've got a huge, I mean, just like enormous maple tree in the backyard, and every year it's so big, and the leaves fall like exclusively into our yard, where it's about 7-8 hours worth of raking every single year from the one tree. And so I separate that out. So I'll do like 3.5 one day, wait for the rest of the leaves to fall, go ahead and do 3.5 the next. That's my strategy to attack this crazy undertaking of leaves. And how do I pass the time besides just raking? You know, listening to podcasts, listening to old podcasts, listening to new podcasts, listening to the Torch podcast usually. But on this day, it was about, I don't know, 25 degrees. It was freezing outside as I'm out there like some kind of goof raking these leaves way later than I should have been. Let's put it that way too. I was procrastinating. So I'm out there raking the leaves, and I'm listening to old episodes of the Steve Austin show. I'm caught up on the Torch feed, and I'm just like, hey, Steve Austin's a good interview, and 2 episodes just dropped from William Regal. So William Regal part 1, William Regal part 2, and figure, hey, that's a good listen. Austin Regal, like all day. Who's gonna say no to that, right? So start listening, and William Regal. I mean, gosh, it kind of goes without saying at this point because he's renowned as just like such a mind for the professional wrestling business. And I mean, hearing him talk about all kinds of styles. He talks about the cruiserweights. He talks about, the British style that he came up with. He talks about current AEW stuff and really makes a point to like drive home that, these styles are so fun that they're all around and they're all about and they're all and can blend together. And that's part of the point, is make sure that if you're a star out there and you're a pro wrestler, that you can blend them together, that you can't just work one style. So I digress. He was fascinating to talk to or to listen to. I need to talk to him. Maybe someday. Let's manifest that. Okay. So he's talking to Steve Austin, and they're talking about his journey in Europe as he starts his career in pro wrestling. And the conversation turned to, at some point early, like a lot of times, like Chris Jericho does this all the time. Hey, what is your favorite match to watch ever? Austin kind of got right into that in this soon, maybe like 40 minutes in. And the first match that Regal tossed out there was Mark Rocco versus Marty Jones. And I was so interested in watching that match after I heard him talk about like everything that went into it. And he talked about the style, their style, like, prior to just talking about that match and prior to bringing that match up. Yet he spent a big chunk of that podcast talking about that. So I'm like, man, if this is William Regal's style, right? The style that he wrestled in, but also the style that he clearly is most passionate about. I got to give this thing a go. I mean, if this is his favorite match, I mean, how many matches William Regal has probably seen in his life? I mean, so to me, I'm like, if this guy says that this match is his favorite one, well, I definitely gotta tune into that thing. And tune in I did. And so the match is crazy. It is a match that has like, it's almost like there's 8 different matches, or no, in this case, there's 13 supposed matches in one, because this is the type of style where they have rounds, right? And this was a 13 round match with both championships on the line. Both Jones and Rocco had titles, and so the winner was going to win both championships. 13 rounds. 5-minute rounds each, and there you go. And you have this match. And what's so interesting that I found, number one, there's a list of things that I want to touch on here. First and foremost, the crowd in this is just, I mean, it's staggering just how invested they are in the outcome. Rocco is the heel, straight up, and Marty Jones is the babyface, who like the audience is very, very much behind. And the interesting part about this match starts there, because the match itself, guys, it was, I don't want to say it was slow paced, but it wasn't fancy. It was like your British style match. It was a lot of holds, a lot of reversals, a lot of submissions, some really stiff striking. Like, that was the crux of the match, and the crux of the psychology. But it's interesting because that's all they needed. Like, they were over enough as stars where they didn't need to like do crazy flip spots. They didn't need to do big moves like on the ring apron or through tables and what have you. Like the match just didn't call for it. It almost would have been weird, like if they would have done that. Like that's how meaningless those spots would have been in this match because it just didn't need it. Like this was all about fighting, and from the very beginning of this match, they made you think that they were fighting each other just by the way they were locking up and like the lockups. Like I could probably talk for for too long about the lockups. Like they were so crisp. Almost every, not everyone, but almost every kind of interaction between both guys in the match, like started with a lockup, and not like some like a weak kind of lockup, but like a bam, we're colliding head on type thing, like something really meaningful. And as the match went on, they kind of got more, not desperate, but more like just with more intensity behind them, but some more desperation behind them too, because they were weathered, and they were able to sell that way. Speaking of selling, I mean, when you watch this match, and I highly recommend you do again, it's on YouTube. Watch the way these guys sell. Like it is pinpoint. If Rocco was working over like Marty Jones's shoulder, like Jones would be selling the exact spot, right? Like not just like my shoulder, but like the exact spot. Same with you, he was working a knee or an arm or the neck. Like it was all so accurate and fine tuned in terms of where that selling was taking place that it made the offense, which was kind of one note in terms of like the style, but it made it just resonate because it was so clear and so to the point and so specific, when both guys were selling that it just had such a profound impact on the match because it was so direct that you can't miss it as a viewer. You just can't miss that, period. So that helped kind of drive the intensity of the match. Then you got this thing with the rounds, right? Like, and the goal of the match is to get two falls or two submissions or two disqualifications, best 2 out of 3. And you've got 13 rounds to do it. And what's cool about that is like, I had it ingrained like in my brain that like, all right, well, this thing's going 13 rounds, right? Like it's just like, 2 out of 3 falls matches these days where it's like, okay, it's 2 out of 3 falls, but we pretty much know it's not going to just be 2 falls to 0. So you wait for the 2 falls and then, okay, here comes the finishing fall. This was different because I had the same kind of psychology in my head of like, all right, well, they have 13 rounds to do this. They're not going to pay it off early. They do. I'm not going to say which round because I don't want to give away too much, but that did not factor in. Like it was so much better to watch the match that way and kind of like, honestly, like be conditioned to think that this thing's going to last longer than it would, because it's a fight. You don't know when fights are going to end. And that kind of psychology and thought process on my end made it pretty damn surprising when the finish went the way that it did. So pretty really cool stuff there. Okay, the match itself. The offense is so interesting. Like you'll probably start off. Honestly, it's a little bit of a mind shock, like when you play, because it's so different than what you watch today. Even WWE, like where there's less flying around, than AEW, but there's still a lot of it. Like a major, a lot. There's a lot of that in WWE still too. But there's none of it in this match. Like the finish involves like one of the biggest bump in the match, which makes sense because it's the finish, it's the end. And so they don't take away from that throughout. You know, they stayed very much on the ground. There's some stuff on the ring ropes every now and again, but like for the most part, the match happens on their feet or on the mat, and they save like that big moment for the end, and it resonates. It resonates because it's not like littered in, sprinkled in throughout the entire match. It's just not. And so when the finish happens, is big and it matters and it's impactful and the crowd reacts. Really, really cool stuff. The style here takes a little bit of getting used to too. You know, think Zack Sabre Jr., but like, you know, times 10. Like, you know, maybe not times 10. Zack Sabre Jr., you could definitely drop into this era and he would have a great match with both these guys. Without question. But there's still like some edginess to Zack Sabre Jr. and like a new age of the style that takes place here in 1978. And so ultimately that's kind of cool. This match can stand the test of time. But again, the reason it can, it starts with the over stars. These are two big time stars, clearly. And there's audience investment from the beginning, clearly. And they build on that. And they don't take it for granted, but they use it to tell the story that they want. And they rely on that reaction, not the other way around. They don't look for big spots to get the reaction. They just know that reaction is there and they do their thing so that they can continue getting the reaction that they want to get. It is a phenomenal match. I highly recommend that you go out and find it. I'll drop it in my YouTube feed. I'll drop it on my Twitter feed at @Heydorn Torch right there. Okay, I will drop it there, and you guys can find it. And I watch the match, and DM or send a tweet over, or we could keep chatting about it on Twitter if Twitter's still there by the time you watch it. Let's talk about it. I'd really like to hear you guys' thoughts. Yeah, I was surprised. So there you have it. That's what I'm watching. That's what I've been watching. This is the PWTorch YouTube channel. I am PWTorch assistant editor Zach Heydorn. This show's called Heydorn Watches Wrestling. Hit subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, watch the match. We'll see you next time.